Francis, we're good to go.
Okay, sir. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us for today's conference. Before we begin the program, let us start first with the prayer and the singing of the national anthem.
Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to meet together. Please help us to come together to make this institution reflect your kingdom. Breathe life into our ideas and decisions. Help us build a team that has love and respect at its heart. Give us the strength to continue working for your kingdom in this time of pandemic. Lord, come give us the inspiration to be the best we can be. May we be a shining example of your goodness and truth within, wherever we are. Inspire our thoughts, discussions, and ideas, and continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth for the greater glory of you. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you very much. To give us the welcome remarks, the SPICE advisor, let us welcome Dr. Randy Gamboa.
Thank you, Sir Francis. Mayong buntag sa tanan. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today. We are very pleased to be able to welcome those of you that have been with us for a long time now, as well as those who are new to CSP-ICE. The fourth Information and Computing Education Conference, or better known as CSP-ICE 2021, which is being organized by the Computing Society of the Philippines, or CSP. And this year it is being hosted by the Southern Leyte State University. Is actually a back-to-back conference event. This is in collaboration with the Special Interest Group on Artificial Intelligence, or SIG AI, as well as the Special Interest Group in Women in Computing, or the SIGWIC. Now, before we begin, I'd want to offer my heartfelt gratitude to all of you who are virtually present today. Of course, particularly the CSP board, no, with Doc Jimmy Caro as the CSP SPICE lead, who kindly assisted us in making this event a success. This year's conference chair, Dr. Greg Gabison, deserves actually a special recognition. Mabuhay ka, Doc Greg. We wouldn't have been able to accomplish it without you. Your virtual presence and enthusiasm for being a part of CSP SPICE encourages us all to come together. And then, of course, the energy we generate helps us to fulfill our individual and group objectives. We rely on you as much as you rely on us, which is why we are delighted to have you here at this conference. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but this conference will be both entertaining and educational. So everyone is once again welcome. Mayong buntag, pag-usab. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc Randy. And moving on to give us the inspirational message, let us welcome the President of Southern Leyte State University, Dr. Pros Ivy Yepes.
Ayong buntag, I'm happy to know that Doc Randy is also a Bisaya. Sumayong buntag sa tanan. Warmest greetings from Southern Leyte State University. Before anything else, let me express my sincere thanks to the organizers of this significant endeavor for considering our humble university to be one of its partners. The entire academic community of SLSU is honored to be part of this relevant undertaking. This year's fourth Information and Computing Education Conference of the Special Interest Group on Information and Computing Education of the Computing Society of the Philippines is another milestone of the organization towards its quest to support quality education in the field of computing. The fourth industrial revolution has indeed challenged all institutions of higher learning to advance its computing education towards artificial intelligence, big data, and Internet of Things, or IoT, not to mention that during this time of crisis or health crisis brought about by COVID-19 pandemic, these technologies made the continuity of operations of the institutions possible. More importantly, that of the Philippine higher education sector. The current situation calls for a rebooting and rewiring of educational instruction and of school system management to address the huge challenges posed by the new normal. Thus, this conference is a big help to all learning institutions like SLSU in stepping up towards these challenges. And I strongly believe that this is a highly commendable endeavor. As we traverse to a better new normal, Southern Leyte State University, through the newly institutionalized University Information Systems and Analytics, headed by Mr. Ray Francis Padao, who is our host in this conference, commits, of course, to give our best efforts to make SLSU as one of the smart universities in the Philippines for the benefit of all our stakeholders. To the CSP-SPICE or CSP-ICE, and its partner organizations. Congratulations for spearheading this very significant and relevant event. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you, and God bless, and of course, always stay safe.
Thank you, President Kempes, for the very inspiring message. Moving on, to give us an overview of this conference, let us welcome the conference chair of ICE 2021, Dr. Greg Victor Gavison.
Thank you, Francis. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, my colleagues in the computing space, and as well both in the academia and industry. Just last May of this year, the Philippines, through the Department of Trade and Industry, launched the National Artificial Intelligence Roadmap, which made the Philippines as one of the first 50 countries in the world to have a national strategy and policy on artificial intelligence. Today, the Computing Society of the Philippines, together with the Special Interest Group for Artificial Intelligence, and also this is a back-to-back conference together with the Special Interest Group of that is the Women in Computing that is actually currently led by Dr. Cherry Santarumana. And for this event, it's actually the Special Interest Group of Information and Computing Education. We open up its this year's fourth Information and Computing Education Conference. The main thrust of this year's conference is to support Philippines' AI direction, the National Artificial Intelligence Strategy, which provides an actionable guide on harnessing AI's potential to uplift everyone, every Filipino for that matter, our local industry, our economy. So we have invited speakers from industry and academia, national and foreign. Although foreign, but they are full-blooded Filipinos who are actually situated in abroad. That would be they would be speaking today and as well as tomorrow, and they are to talk about their AI-related executions experiences. And this morning, we have somebody who would actually articulate aspects of the AI roadmap and provide those marching alignment directions to the academe as well. And in response to that, this afternoon, we will have speakers from the different centers of excellence in IT computing who will share their course exemplars of what they have been delivering or what they have delivered in terms of topics connecting or relating to AI data science. And just like in the previous years, the ICE conference, the participants, you guys, are coming from the different universities and colleges all over the Philippines, and it might not be a surprise that we will also be seeing somebody out from the industry as well, because I've seen some registrants from the industry, these industry practitioners, who are also to most likely connect with us in the academia, which is pretty much very functional and practical, because at the end of the day, we always have to align to and from the people from the academia and to the industry. And to us participants, I would like to request that we proactively engage our speakers. We will challenge them, but in a very diplomatic way, of course, and especially our panels for the panel discussion tomorrow afternoon, in the offering of the Bachelor of Science in Data Science program. Actually, we have invited speakers from the Analytics Association of the Philippines, from the other corners of the academia and as well as the industry. And also, the tail end prior to the conclusion of this conference or closing, we have a talk from our brothers and sisters from PICAP. And so, with that said, I'd like to say once again, thank you very much for taking your time to joining this magnanimous conference. And by the way, to us teachers, happy Teachers Day. Hopefully, you had your share of sweet things yesterday, well, 2 days ago, October 5. And whether we like it or not, as teachers, we are the most powerful being globally. Because just imagine, every president, every prime minister, every leader, whether it's Elon Musk or Bill Gates or whoever they went through our hands. And we have that power to make sure that they would actually be guided and be re-guided from their crooked ways if they are. So with that said, thank you very much and good morning to all. Adelante. Back to you, Francis.
Thank you, Sir Greg. Moving on. Um, it is my honor and privilege to introduce our first keynote speaker. She is a physicist who holds an Aboitiz Chair in Data Science and a professorship in Data Science at the Asian Institute of Management. She is also the founding program director of AIM's Master of Science in Data Science, one of the region's leading data science graduate programs. In 2019, as a policy advisor, she was tapped by the Philippine government to craft its National Artificial Intelligence Roadmap. She has always been a big advocate for lifelong learning. She is currently studying at Harvard Kennedy School of Government under its leading Smart Policy Design program. In addition, the prestigious Asia 21 Society has recently selected her for the 2022-2023 Asia 21 Young Leaders class. As a scientist, she specializes in complexity science, network science, computational social science, and data science. Her current research is geared toward understanding complex systems, including urbanization, determining the mechanism that drives and controls them. In 2020, she was a recipient of the Philippine National Academy of Science and Technology Outstanding Young Scientist Award. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Erica Legara.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Hi.
Dr. Erica.
Thank you so much. Let me just share my screen again. How is everyone?
Very much alive and kicking.
That's good. That's good to know. Can you now see the actual slides presentation? What are you seeing? Is it the title slide?
Okay.
All right. Hi, Greg. Good morning. Nice to finally see a face behind the email. Good morning again, everyone. It's great to see our professors as well from Southern Leyte State University. Yeah, thank you for having me today. I was actually given about an hour for the presentation and also the Q&A. So please do bear with me. What I'll do right now is I'm actually looking at 3 screens. I'm going to open up a chat box as well in case you have questions that you want to ask. And well, we're all professors and teachers here. So do raise your hand. I can see the participants list as well. You may raise your hand, and if I have time to pause, I would pause to hear your questions. Okay, I hope that's okay with everyone. All right, so today the topic is really AI as a nation defining capability, and we are going to discuss this using the triple helix lens, because there's a lot of ways to unpack the national AI roadmap, for example, of the country. In the next maybe 45 minutes, what I'm gonna do is I will focus on 2 things. The first aspect, just to build context on why we need to have alignment among academics and also the industry. I will first talk about our own industry, academe, data science, and AI projects, the opportunities that we see, and also the challenges that we're facing so that we can all have a shared, vision or a common vision, right? And then, of course, I'm also going to talk about the National AI Roadmap. So it's going to build up on that one. Many of our AI researchers, Pros Naval, Professor Didis, who's also be speaking later, they've all been doing artificial intelligence since, I don't know, the late 1990s or early 1990s now. But how come, some of the students here might ask, how come it's only in the last decade that, even the enterprises have started talking about it? In fact, this is not just something anecdotal. MIT's Loan Management Review conducted a global survey wherein they interviewed more than 3,000 enterprises and leaders of these enterprises and asked them, do you think that artificial intelligence or data science, because it's the application, will have a huge impact on your products? Do you think AI will have a huge impact on your processes? And a resounding 99% yes was the answer. 99%, imagine, of enterprises, these are the big enterprises, say they're investing in artificial intelligence. This is exciting because one of the things I love, I'm a physicist, but one of the things I love about the field of data science and AI is that it cuts across industries. No, and it's a very applied field. So it can be very exciting, unlike the more traditional fields where you're stuck in one particular vertical. Here you can move from doing research in real estate all the way to urban planning, which is what I'm doing right now, and then working with manufacturing industries, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so this is all pretty and good. In fact, what I did not show you was that the second slide, the previous slide, was actually from this particular article as well, published by Randy Bean. They conducted a big data and AI executive survey this year. So again, let me just read this particular phrase, that investments in big data and AI remain high at 99%, and about 92% of these organizations are in fact increasing the level of their investments, right? But you can see here that this phrase ends with a comma. The whole sentence actually also includes the fact that results continue to lag. It means that we are really not meeting the expectations of the business. In fact, in terms of numbers, only 24% of those interviewed said that, we have realized our goal of becoming a data-driven organization. And this is something that I want the industry and the academics here in this room want to ask. Why is this the case? So just think about that, and then later maybe you'll have some ideas after I show you some of our experiences at the Asian Institute of Management. I saw Castro raise his hand and then put it down again. You may just type, Castro, your question in the chat box. All right, so we're gonna go back to that why. But what I can share with you is that in 2017, when we came back home to the Philippines to set up the data science program of AIM, I was actually working for the Singapore government R&D. So we were part of an agency that housed around 5,000 scientists. No? Our task was only to work on industry, government projects, and of course, every now and then to do academic research to push the boundaries of the field. But ever since I came back home in 2017, because I'm housed in a business school, we really had a lot of engagements with the enterprises, banks, conglomerates, manufacturing industry, healthcare, government agencies, likely more than 75. And I'm being conservative since we came back home. So when I say we, I mean me and my colleague, Chris Monterola. And our engagements with the enterprises lead us to craft these 5 different challenges. So we all put them in these boxes. And perhaps this is also where academia could actually come in. So talking to these business folks, these strategists from different enterprises, we noticed that, number one, there's a lack of understanding that's prevalent across enterprises in the region, not just in the Philippines, but the ASEAN region. And the lack of understanding here is not just the lack of understanding of data science. What is data science or what is AI? It's not just the definition. The lack of understanding also stems from not knowing how to link the strategic imperatives of the business. So these are the goals of the companies to the technological workload and the impacts of artificial intelligence. So that for them is not very clear. And if it's not very clear, then no one would really invest in artificial intelligence in the company, right? So you have to first establish what is the return on investment before we dive into this. And this is the next two problems. It's really tied, for me, it's really tied on the lack of understanding. Because and maybe, of course, the size of the company. That's why you have the lack of resources and the lack of internal support, because there are enterprises that know the importance and the value of artificial intelligence and data science to help them compete in the language of analytics. However, there's no internal support. Again, budget constraints, and some more traditional enterprises don't want to do things differently. Why would we change if things already work? No. So these are the three. And then the next one is a bit more really involved. I think it would require one whole course, no, the lack of a data strategy. But this is now speaking the language of, again, the organizations, the stakeholders, and the enterprises. Data strategy essentially is about how you can use AI technology and data to push the business forward. Okay, so it's a very rigorous journey for organizations to have a data strategy. All right, but I'm not gonna dwell on that one. And finally, again, for us academics here, I heard that Greg was talking about Bachelor of Science in Data Science. Now that is really, really exciting because there is a lack of data science talent in the world. Okay. And when I say data science talent, these are not just our students who are very good at programming, who are very good at building models, but data science as applied to the businesses, to the domains. I'm going to show you a concrete case or example that we experienced. So what you're seeing right now is a collection of multinational companies in the world. Some of these multinational companies we've actually worked with. And a few years ago, in 2019, we were abroad. I forget if it's Vietnam or Thailand. And we were hired by an enterprise. This is one of the most innovative countries in the companies in the world. Imagine that, no? And we met for 2 days straight with their C-level executives, the top 25. And we talked about AI. We talked about the impacts of that to the businesses. And we showed some actual use cases. And on that day, they also gave us some data in real time, and we built a model in real time to show them how they can properly segment their customers with insights. Okay, at the end of the day, because for them, it's not just the results. For them, it's so what, right? They ask the so what. So after that, I was very curious because the chief information officer who is leading the information system in the organization approached us, and he said, we were at the corner. He said, we actually have a lead data scientist in this innovative company. Brilliant scientist, computer scientist, machine learning engineer, really, really good. But how come he or she is not bringing value to the organization? What are we doing wrong? When he said we here, he meant the company. What are we doing wrong? Right? So again, this is a question I think that we should also address the academics here, right? Because what we noticed working with external, when I say external non-academic individuals, is that science graduates and scientists, especially now that we're now merging to other sectors, we have to learn the language of the business, right? What does ROI mean? No? What does strategic imperative mean? Because it's really not just about the data. It's not just about the models. It's not just about programming, because insight is the new currency. In fact, in one of the talks of Steph C that I attended, wherein I was also a panelist, she emphasized that in most organizations that she worked with, Excel was even better than any advanced modeling algorithms, just the outputs from Excel. Because again, it's about insights. No, they don't care about our models, honestly. They don't care about how sophisticated they are. So having these in mind, when we designed the data science program at AIM, I started designing it when I was still based in Singapore, and then we consulted with a lot of scientists as well and practitioners in the field. We knew that we had to anchor it on 3 pillars, not just the academic, okay, but also to government, All right. And also the industry, who is really the one, you will see later in the projects, they're the ones who really need this, right? To help industry innovate and remain competitive in the field of analytics, not to provide service and manpower. That is the goal. So again, I'm actually from the Aboitiz School of Innovation, Technology, and Entrepreneurship. It's just one of the 4 schools inside the Asian Institute of Management. And under A-Site, there are actually 4 degree programs. This is a very interesting combination. You have the entrepreneurs or the business owners, okay? And then you have the innovators. These are the ones who want to get into the startup community. These are the ones who want to start the innovation department in various large enterprises. And then you have the Master of Science in Data Science and the PhD in Data Science. We really pulled them together because you can see, right? The richest businessmen right now are actually technopreneurs. They marry data and also the skills in the language of the business and entrepreneurship. Okay. And of course, the last one, I'm going to talk a bit about the AccessLab, because I think this is really where one of the innovations that we have come in. It's a research lab that houses full-time data scientists who don't have to teach. Okay, so that is a new innovation at AIM. But before we proceed, this is just for the students here. I'm not so sure if you have undergraduates here who might be confused on, like, what is the difference between computing science, data science, and AI? There are as many definitions as there are data scientists. I have to say there's no universally accepted one, but this is just from our point of view, right? I'm sure some of you are familiar with these circles here, that artificial intelligence is actually a bigger umbrella compared to machine learning and deep learning, because artificial intelligence also covers the idea of general AI, which is, you know, if you've seen Terminator, no, it also talks about sentient beings. But I think us in this room, we are more interested in the machine learning aspect or the application aspect of artificial intelligence. Now, what of data science? Data science is, you can see here that there's machine learning there at the top, right? But now once you start working with the industry, with the government, with other organizations, you now start to think beyond algorithmic innovations, but more on the results, the insights that you can get from there, right? So yeah, I just wanted to put it out there so that, you know, it's clearer to everyone, because I've been like using them interchangeably. So again, this is the structure of A-Site, and again, I talked about the AccessLab. So AccessLab is very unique. I'm just going to briefly talk about this because it houses full-time data scientists. And it's not just the data scientists and the research engineers that it houses full-time. We also have a full-time industry development manager in a business school. So what is that? His role is just to talk to the companies, right? Understand their pain points, and define an analytics problem that data scientists can solve for the external organizations. So that is how we're getting projects. That is how we're defining the theses of our students. Okay, it's very grounded on the real world, like what is going on out there. Another unique characteristic of AccessLab is that it houses the fastest AI supercomputer in the whole of the country. In fact, we were recently featured in Asian Scientist Supercomputing Asia, along with 4 other supercomputing facilities in Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, and Malaysia. All 4 of them were actually national computing centers. So we're the only one coming from a business school. What are the roles of AccessLab, in case some of you here are interested in setting something similar? Number 1, the role is to engage private and public organizations in research and development, right? It's part of AIM's consulting arm. Okay, so the industry defines a problem, we solve it. Okay. One of its tasks as well is to publish academic papers. Okay, that's why we also work with government institutions, because they allow us to publish papers. Just a second, my phone is ringing. I'm sorry, that's the tough part about working from home. So yeah, and finally, you can see here, aside from doing research, we also engage the MSDS program. So this is the exciting aspect here, because our data scientist students get to be immersed in actual consulting projects, okay, with the industry, with the support of our AccessLab. Okay, so I'm going to focus a bit about that. Maybe I'm going to spend 10 minutes in just talking about how we're engaging them in projects as an academic institution before we jump into the national AI roadmap with that particular context. So there are three entities involved here. One of you in this Zoom meeting will be able to identify yourself in one of the pillars here. So the government, industry, international organizations, and nonprofit organizations is one. Then you have the analytics, computing, and complex systems lab, okay, which houses 10 to 15 full-time scientists. And then you have the MS in data science program, the one that I'll be focusing on. Greg, can you please just help discuss first so far, maybe some comments, because my mom is calling me and she's saying that it's an emergency. Okay, Greg, I have to talk to my mother. Thank you.
Sir Greg. Hello, Sir Greg. So while
And
waiting,
Francis, you can open the floor first to comments on that first part. Thank you.
okay, okay, pa. Do you have any comments on this? So maybe we can read some of your comments and about the first part of the presentation.
Well, one of this is Jimmy Caro. Okay, let me open my. Yes, I'm change ko lang background ko. So tomorrow we will have an orientation or public consultation on the proposed Bachelor of Science in Computer Science program in policy standards and guidelines under CHED. So that will happen at 2 p.m. tomorrow. So I hope you guys who are interested in data science can attend that public consultation on the proposed policy standards and guidelines of CHED BS Data Science. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for catching me there, Prof. Jimmy. Yeah, indeed, it was a family emergency, but I connected my mom to my brother already. So, all right, where are we? Okay, so these are the three different pillars. All right, so the government, our collaborators, our research lab, and also our students. There are two ways to engage AIM here. Okay, so the first engagement is the AccessLab directly working with the industry. Okay, so it's just the data scientist and then your industry. The second engagement time is when the industry would come to us to work with our students, but with AccessLab supporting the students. Why is this important? Because with the industry, it's very important to see results, right? And sometimes R&D will not really get you impactful results. It's very difficult for students, especially, to work on real-world problems in such a very short time. So AccessLab is the one that guides these students to make sure that they deliver results. The main difference of these engagements as well, this is something that's enlightening for many of our colleagues in the academic industry, is that these companies do pay. No, some universities would even chase companies just to work with them. But at AIM, the companies do pay for us to work on their projects. If it's directly with AccessLab, because it's an AIM consulting arm, they pay about 10 million pesos for a 6 to 8 month project. So that could be very hefty for many enterprises, small and medium enterprises. So one of the ways that they can actually work with us is through the MSDS program, and they pay about 500,000 pesos for a 4 to 5 months project. So there is money involved. It means that we have to deliver, right? So this is some kind of internship on steroids for our students. So how do we go about this? Because maybe some of you here would want to get into this space as well in your own academic institutions. The first one, again, like I mentioned earlier, we have the industry development manager that calls for use cases from various parts of our network of companies and government and other institutions. So once we have these use cases, the professors at AIM will now review these use cases because we want to make sure that they're not too difficult for the students to solve, right? Because they have to graduate. But also they're not too easy for a master's thesis project. So there has to be a balance there. There also has to be a novelty that would be required in the work. So after we've reviewed the projects, we then present all the use cases to all of our data science students. And the data science students can form teams, maximum of 4 members, to write proposals. So that's now step 4. And, hope to get that project, to back the project and work on it as part of their thesis. And also as part of their professional portfolio. Many of our students get hired immediately after their engagement with the industry. So this is, like what I said, this is an innovation. I think that's really worth duplicating many, many, many times. So I'm just going to show you some numbers here. This is the second time I'm presenting these numbers. Since 2018, we've had 3 batches of data science students. That's around 150 data science students. And in these 3 cycles, we've received 39 and completed 39 data science and AI R&D projects with over 50 scoping activities. And the projects came from various sectors as expected, right? So you have local enterprises, MNCs, nonprofit organizations, international institutions. Of course, we have some projects with the government, the BPO, and there are academic projects as well. But here you can see there's only 2 out of 39. What happened here? Again, R&D, there's a lot of uncertainties. And during the process of the research, sometimes industry would pull out, okay? Because they don't have data, they don't have the time to work with us, okay? So after it commences. So when that happens, we still have to make sure that our students graduate. And this is where we come in, right? We are the ones who define the problem for them, making sure that it has all the aspects of AI and data science, okay, when they work on it. And these are the different topics, a lot of topics from the education sector. In fact, we have proponents from the government, from nonprofit organizations, and also from private academic institutions. That's why the education part there is really, really high, talking about scholarships, regional specializations, et cetera, et cetera. But you also see that manufacturing is booming. As what was mentioned earlier, the industry, the 4th industrial revolution, that's really about the manufacturing industry. Lots of projects there as well. Okay, so I'm just gonna show you maybe 3 projects very briefly. How's the process? First, we have to start with a question. We have to let the industry define, we have to let the market define what the problem is, right? Because typically in academic institutions, it's the professors who define the project. Now, if the professor is not practitioner oriented, which is okay. But again, data science is a very applied field. Now, it will be tough to know what questions to ask that would be relevant to external stakeholders. And then once you start with a question, you can now explore what data sets you have. And then that's when the exploratory data analysis would come in, and then where artificial intelligence and other computational models come in under the formal modeling. And of course, interpretation of results. Okay, and then you can see here arrows coming back and forth. It means that this is an iterative process. In fact, in our students' theses, they meet with the stakeholders at least once every 2 weeks. Now, because it's a 4 to 5 month project, and we have to make sure that we deliver results. And finally, of course, once the results are communicated, The hope, the objective is that this drives the decisions of our stakeholders. Some projects done by our students that were defined by the industry. This is from a big conglomerate in the country. They have over 60 branches in the whole of the country, in the Philippines, and they're producing feeds for poultry, for the swine, right? And one of their problems is that if they don't correctly predict the demand, okay, there can be a lot of spoilage, meaning nobody will buy the product or the sales would suffer because they're not producing enough. Okay, and our students here built a machine learning algorithm. In fact, it was a deep learning model. I wasn't expecting that particular aspect. I thought that the ensemble of decision trees would be sufficient, but it seemed that the deep neural network was more effective in this particular project. And it was very successful that the CFO of the company even put a value on the contribution of this project, which is about 100 million pesos in cost reduction for 1 year. Imagine you as a student, as a graduate student, working on a project that directly impacts enterprises, right? Everybody's happy, no? Another project is with a Fortune 500 company that's based in the Philippines, okay? You can see that I didn't include the name of the students and the name of the company because for these projects, we did sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. So there's a lot of secrets there. But the idea here is that they're spending a lot on machines and they want to optimize the use of these machines. So on the scheduling aspect, on preventive maintenance, et cetera, and we use, again, deep learning models to do this optimization for them, which allow them to save about 75 million pesos for every 10 products per annum. But we have to note that this company actually supplies more than 90% of this particular device in various products. So the company estimated over $1 million of savings per annum because of this project. And another project, maybe this is the last project that I'm going to share with you, is a project with the government. So this time I can say that this is with the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. And the authors are Amodia, Domingo, Soriano, and Orencia under the guidance of Dr. Monterola, because they presented this already in the International Conference for Central Banks. So I can share this with you. As you know, the Bangko Sentral regulates financial institutions. So every month they go through 500 accounts. They review 500 accounts every month, and each account would require about 40 man hours. Okay. Now, if you have 500 accounts, that's about 20,000 man hours per month. So a lot of the computer vision experts here know that if it's pattern recognition, it's very, very likely something that AI can actually also do. So the good thing here as well is that Amodia, Domingo, Soriano, and Orencia are actually scholars of the BSP. They're employees. So they also know the language of the central bank. That's why this was really very impactful. So they wrote an algorithm using machine learning and AI and also network science. And they were able to reduce the processing time by 99% from 20,000 man hours all the way to 11 minutes. Imagine that. Okay, so I think it's very clear to everyone. I'm going to spend the last 15 minutes or 10 minutes on the National AI Roadmap. But before that, I want to emphasize if we're working with outside of academia groups, we have to understand that there's always a return of investment involved in any project. Right? Why would they spend their time with us? Why would they spend their money with us? To wit, 10 million US dollars was the total potential revenue that was generated by the MSDS program of AIM for our partner stakeholders. In the second batch, that's 40 million US dollars. In the third batch, which had a lot of education projects, it's down to 28 million US dollars. Because with the education, what we're actually measuring there is the social and developmental impact, which is, not represented in dollar, right? And another return of investment for our students and AIM is that we get to expose students to what is really R&D in the real world. That there are a lot of uncertainties, and it's important for them to experience these uncertainties. So it's like real world sandboxing. No, it's sandboxing because we throw them out there, but then we are still watching and supporting them in case they don't complete it. We're there to complete it for them. Of course, their grades will suffer, but the stakeholders will still see a completed project. That's very important. So these are the challenges, and really, I hope that everyone can help us on this one, particularly the computing society, right? CSP-ICE. We can later. I know that you'll have meetings. Then maybe we can, you can help us look into this particular matter. Number one, a lot of enterprises here in the country lack an R&D culture, meaning they don't know that you have to spend. Okay, and it could also turn out that the results are obvious to you, or that the research will not even finish because it's a very difficult problem, right? So these uncertainties, we have to explain it to them over and over again before they jump into research. I say that it's a lack of a culture because when I was in Singapore, it's like everybody spoke the language of research. It didn't matter what sector you're from. Even government people knew what R&D meant, okay? Data gaps is another issue. Many companies, even the big ones, they would think that, hey, we have a lot of data. Maybe that's true. But what they wouldn't realize until we do the project is that they don't have access to the data. That they're not even allowed to access the data and share it to us to work on an R&D. So that's a challenge as well. So that's why you also have very high project risks. Again, money is involved, time is involved. And as academics, right, we don't want to disillusion the enterprise, meaning they get so excited with your project and then in the end they get disappointed. So they would say that, oh, AI is really just a buzzword or data science is just a buzzword. We do not want that to happen. Another challenge is the scoping activities, because the business problems are not easily translatable to the language of analytics. So you have to rewrite or to translate the business problem into an analytics problem, and that takes time. Typically, our industry development manager would take about 2 to 3 meetings for each external stakeholder. Okay, that's a lot of time. And of course, lack of mentors who are practitioners in the field. That's why when earlier, I think I missed that slide. In one of the batches, we actually received 28 use cases, but we only got to solve 15 use cases. The 15 because there were only 15 teams in the class. So what happened to the 13? They weren't solved. If only we could endorse them to other academic institutions, no? And maybe this is something that Prof. Jimmy could also discuss later, like the capability to help enterprises because they want to get into the field of analytics, but they don't have the resources. So they're looking into academia. All right. Now I'm going to segue into the National AI Roadmap. So now that you see from the academic perspective, the opportunities and also the challenges, now let's talk about, okay, what are we going to do moving forward? So I think Greg gave a really nice introduction on the National AI Roadmap that governments, you saw earlier that enterprises believe that AI has a large impact on their products and processes, and they're now considering it as a strategic capability. Now, even governments not around the world see AI as a nation-defining capability. In fact, Greg said earlier that there's about 50 countries right now who have their own roadmap, and that includes the Philippines, right? So we're very excited about this. Why do you think the DTI prioritized this since 2019, AI in particular? Well, because there's a survey done by Kearney and DBI saying that AI could actually help uplift the Philippine GDP by up to 92 billion US dollars. That's about 12% of our 2030 GDP. But only if we do this right? Only if we really invest our time and effort crafting curricula, making sure that we have strong relationship with the industry, and also the government. All right, so how does the National AI Roadmap look like? It has 2 pillars. I'm going to walk you through this, okay? And of course, there's a lot of consultation that happened here. I'm going to acknowledge every single one of them at the last slide. So it's composed of two pillars. I'm going to rationalize that later, with 4 strategic dimensions, 7 strategic imperatives, and 42 strategic tasks. We made sure that the tasks are listed because we don't want this to end up like a white paper, right? After you list the roadmap, all right, let's all move on. No, we want this to be actionable at the end of the day. So this is the guide again. This is a live document, by the way, so meaning that it can change. So everybody is welcome to share their thoughts and ideas. No, I'm just gonna link you with Undersecretary Fita Aldaba, and then you can work with them to improve this initial roadmap. Right? Again, it's a live document. It's continuously changing and evolving, pretty much like AI and the fourth industrial revolution. So here are just some of the objectives to maintain the regional and global competitiveness of our local industries. That's why it's under DTI now. Noting that AI is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, drivers of innovation for companies, right? To also identify key areas in both R&D and technology application for investing, no, both our time and resources of the different sectors. To recommend ways of effectively working, okay, with industry, academia, and government for national development. So that's another objective. And of course, we cannot leave this here. How do we prepare our future workforce for all of these technological advancements and changes? And finally, which is part of the DTI thrust really, is to attract big companies outside of the Philippines to set up their shops here and generate jobs for our people. So, for example, it would be so good to see if Rolls-Royce would come to the Philippines and set up an R&D lab, right, where all of our graduates could actually join them. That would be so beautiful. So these are the objectives. Now, how did we structure it? Of course, there's what we call the Global AI Index. It's tracking it's benchmarking the nations in terms of their level of investment, innovation, and implementation of AI in the country. So this is where we got our two pillars because in the National AI Roadmap, we combined both innovation and investment because it talks about the commercialization of R&D products anyway. So from here, these are the two pillars. And then from the two pillars, implementation and innovation, there are 4 strategic dimensions. Again, this is inspired by the World Economic Forum framework for a national AI strategy. Okay, so the dimensions are digitization and infrastructure, workforce development, regulation, and of course, research plus development. Okay, so research, we are distinguishing that because in our FGDs with sectors, they're disheartened because they say that, especially in the fisheries and farming, no, I'm just going to share with you in agriculture, they say that, you know, a lot of UP, I'm also from UP, a lot of UP professors and scientists would be so excited to work with us at the start of a project. And then after they publish papers, we don't hear from them anymore. So there is no development part there. There's just research there. So what our industries and other stakeholders want is, you know, something for them to take action on. That's why research plus development is emphasized here. From the strategic dimensions, it's also important to outline our imperatives. So what are our objectives? For the digitization and infrastructure, this is where DICT would actually come in. We have to make sure that the bedrock of all of this is set up, right? The robust network environment, data access is important, and also data value extraction. Then other parts of the imperatives would be to nurture future AI talents. This is where most of us come in. To upskill and reskill our workforce. This is where some of us here come in, right? On the regulation part, I know that the DTI is now engaging with ethicists who are really experts in the field of technology ethics or applied ethics to develop an AI economy conscience. You know, we have to be ready for this one, for potential biases in the algorithms once we roll them out, right? And finally, the other two imperatives would be To accelerate innovation with AI, this is where our researchers come in and also our industry, and also to master and push the boundaries of AI, which is using the academic and basic research lens. All right. Again, Chris and I actually wanted 42 strategic tasks, and many of you here are probably geeks. You know what 42 means, right? If you know what 42 means, you can type them in the chat box what 42 means. So that's very relevant. So this is how the roadmap looks like. Again, it's a lot of tasks with a lot of different stakeholders involved, like really a lot. But for this talk, yes, Sherwin, very good. 42 is the answer to everything. No, we really made sure it's 42. And then some of our colleagues would say, you have to add these tasks pa. So we were like, oh, how do we improve this? What's yeah, geeks rule. What can we combine no? Just to make sure that 42 yung tasks natin. All right, so I want to focus on the National Center for AI Research. And this is really exciting for researchers like us, no? Because we are pushing for a national AI center for AI research and care, because this was from our experience when we worked with the Singapore government, where they have this agency for science, tech, and research that houses full-time scientists. Now, if you love research, this is the agency for you. Around 5,000 scientists, imagine. And all we have to do is do research, push the boundaries of science, help industries innovate. So we said that we have to have this because it will also absorb our graduates. I'm not so sure if you knew this number, but in the Philippines, in Manila especially, for every 25 STEM graduate from the university, there's only one really decent STEM job awaiting them. So what happens to the other 24? No, so hopefully this absorbs our graduates. In Singapore, the number one employer for STEM graduates, it's not even Google, even though they have Google there and Facebook as well, no? But the STEM graduates would still choose to go to A-Star. There's a certain level of prestige joining A-Star. And our hope is that we can develop something similar for our country, right? So here is how it initially looks like. Again, this is conceptualization. This is iterative. Maybe it's something that you can discuss later as well. There will be a national data center, probably from DOST and the National Research Cloud, and also the full-time data scientists, and not just data scientists, but economists, social scientists, physicists, mathematicians. No? That is our idea. And then, of course, working with the industry, government, and academia. Again, I said that this is not new. In fact, we have the Fraunhofer in Germany, you have A-Star in Singapore. Really here, this is about doing R&D for socio-economic needs. This is R&D for the immediate benefit of the industry. So there's the industry emphasis there and the greater good of society. It is expected that these centers would be at the forefront of technological innovation, and it's interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary in nature. A-Star is different from NUS or NTU, because with NUS and NTU, they are really forced to make or to produce a lot of papers or publications. Diba? In academia, it's publish or perish. No? But sometimes if you work with the industry, they have certain requirements that do not allow you to publish papers. Okay, so that would be very unfair to our professors who are working with industry but are not able to publish. No? So hopefully this kind of model would address that specific challenge. And of course, one of the important roles as well of these centers would be to nurture and develop R&D talents and leaders. So that is our idea for NCARE. And from our discussions with more than 50 stakeholders in the ground, these are just some of the priority research programs. Again, nothing is set in stone. So feel free to have your comments, suggestions, etc., etc. Agri-tech and aquaculture, transportation and urban science, smart manufacturing, definitely big because we're in the fourth industrial revolution, healthcare, and finally, resilience, technology is another one for the natural hazards, right? And we also have to make sure, because this is something that was asked to us before, how can we say that we are successful? So we have to have key performance indicators that we need to track. Again, for the infrastructure and implementation side, we have to make sure that the DICT deliver on the internet speed, pervasiveness, and reliability aspect. That's one. We will also be tracking a global innovation index ranking. The quality of education rankings, very important. And the return of investment of all of these efforts that we're putting in to set up the National Center for AI Research. That's also very important. And the roadmap. Labor market efficiency and employment. To those who are not very familiar with economics, this is just saying that there should be a proper job for every graduate, and for every demand, there should be a supply, okay, of talents. Another thing that we have to track as well is the number of new local companies, startups, no, where data and AI are critical components, because we want to make them rich, bring in at least 10 million US dollar of annual revenue, no. And finally, again, because this is also spearheaded by DTI, we want to be able to attract number of top-tiered enterprises that is setting up shop here in the country. Okay, so before I end, I'm just gonna thank all of these people. We've had a series of meetings since 2019, now back-to-back meetings with them. The first row, most of them. This is from the academic industry. And then the second row, these are the enterprises, right? Steph C, Joseph Ladion, they're implementing AI. Teresa Condicion, she's also advising our government. Then you have Nico Perez in fintech and microfinance. Alan Timonera under manufacturing industry. And of course, Sir Nap, Juanillo. And the bottom are really the wise advisors who were at one point in time involved in government. So they know how to navigate the government, industry, and academia collaboration. And as mentioned, although DTI was the one that really spearheaded this roadmap, this crafting of a roadmap, everybody's involved. No, we've also had a series of meetings with them. In fact, before we launched in May 2021, it was really just a series of meetings with all of these agencies, DTI, DOST, TESDA, DepEd, DOF, for the implementation. And I still have a few minutes. This is exciting. The next slide, promise. This is the last slide. If you want to create an end care, of course, you want to have higher salaries now for our scientists, because how can we compete if industry is paying higher? But if it's a government institution, we know that there is salary standardization, right? So we don't want to pay our MS or PhD data scientists with 30,000, 50,000 pesos because of salary grade. So this was something that we are considering right now. When I say we, it's really the government. We're just listening, no, and advising. So what's exciting is that we are now in talks with all of these conglomerates, and they will be putting in some millions of pesos not to set up and care. So it will be private in nature, but with a developmental aspect. You see, because again, we said that you cannot pay our data scientists non-competitive salaries, no. So this is one of the answers. And yeah, I said that this is the last slide. Actually, I forgot that. These are all of the people from manufacturing, agriculture, retail and service organizations and enterprises that also helped us in crafting this particular roadmap. And yeah, I think we have time for Q&A. Thank you so much. Yes, good morning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Legara, for a very nice presentation. We have some questions here. Let me read. Which among the universities in the Philippines offer BS in data science? When will it be offered? What are the requirements? Thank you. I think
Yeah, maybe there are better people who can answer that. I'm not really familiar with BS in data science. I know some schools that offer it.
Another question, Paul. How do universities become part of the NCARR or the
And care, yeah.
NCAR? How can we contribute to its success?
A very good question, only coming from one of the best mentors I also know out there, Brian Samson. I really look up to this guy. He's very young, but he's produced a lot of scholars as well under his wing. So thank you so much for that question, Dr. Samson. Definitely, the universities will play a very big part. Okay, number one, you will be the one that we will be the ones who will be producing these scientists for NCARE, and then there will also be collaborations between NCARE and also the universities as part of strengthening the academic linkages. All right. And the other one is also internships. I know that the Philippines is not very big on that, but DLSU is, but many parts of our universities is not. So just like in Singapore, we can absorb even high school students, no, to just observe in research and also work on projects with scientists that's housed within NCARE. So I am actually just sharing some of the ideas that we wrote in the roadmap. That's also what's being done in other centers. But yeah, Dr. Samson, we can also talk offline, and I will be able to share your ideas as well on how we're gonna do this. Again, this is going to be a community and team effort. Thank you for your question, Brian.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Here we have one question from, are there vendors exam for data science graduates and practitioners? We know MS and Cisco vendors exams.
Right now, there's no universal one, but there should be, no? But you're right, Ferdy. That's a very good question again. That is something that our enterprises are asking for, in particular, our small and medium enterprises, because they say that, hey, Prof. Erica, we do have applicants, but how do we make sure that this is actually an expert in the field and that this person can actually help us? No. So yeah, short answer, likely there are analytics institutions or communities here that are also starting to create these standardization exams, but I'm not familiar with them, to be honest. But yeah, there are things cropping up. Hopefully, if NCARE gets set up really by early next year, because we are finishing the incorporation papers this year. This is something that we should also think about. Thank you for that, Ferdy. Okay.
We still have another one, ma'am, from Victor.
Oh no, yeah, this is true, Victor. Victor is asking.
There is an increasing concern for AI's carbon footprint. How is this addressed in the Philippine AI roadmap?
You know what, Victor, this is not addressed in the roadmap. Maybe we should really add it. In fact, I just came in another talk about a few days ago talking about this in particular. Right now, many scientists are developing these wafers, right, to reduce the carbon footprint and electricity consumption. But this is really on the hardware end. But you're right, in terms of sustainability, this should be talked about. And to your point, I'll write it down. I'll likely recommend to add it in the under the AI economy or the ecosystem on regulation. Thank you so much for that input. Yeah.
We have another question from Ferdy. Are there projects in AIM that deals with AI solutions to COVID, or any use cases that AI projects is used to control COVID cases? Thank you.
Not via the MSDS program. In fact, I hid this slide. This is with NEDA, AIM, Pasig, and we've also had projects as well with 4 other LGUs on the contact tracing. So apparently, our contact tracing apps are not integrated with our before with the cases that is in the database of DOH. So even if you have the contact network, if you don't know who's sick, how can you inform those who are connected? So this was part of our project, and also building the algorithm to actually construct the contact network, because again, many of the apps do not have that algorithm to even build the network. It's really frustrating. For example, the ideal contact tracing ratio for every infected, you should be able to reach out to about 30 on average other individuals. But the Philippines, in an August 2021 report, is only at 1:6. And because of the algorithms and the collaboration that we have with all of these other stakeholders, we're able to actually reduce this or improve this to 1:116. One case is 116 potential contacts. And if we're even going to filter the kinds of individuals, the more vulnerable ones, it's 1:29, which is actually very comparable to the ideal case. Thank you so much for that question. I really skipped the slide because I'm pressed with time. Thank you.
We have here another question from Victor. How do we make AI development more accessible to the less developed portion of the Philippines?
No, you're right. No, this is this is now on the policy side of government, Victor. In the roadmap, we did identify the RDIs, the Research Development Institutes. That's already from DOST set up. They're not AI driven yet, but that's our initial idea, is that we'll have a headquarters in Manila initially because of implementability and practicability. And then maybe later on, we'll have another one in Cebu and then another one in Mindanao. However, we already have the RDIs. Maybe we can just deploy data scientists there once there are clear AI projects to work on. But again, that's a very good question that the roadmap hopefully answers. No, it's very detailed. It's quite thick. It's there. Thanks for that, Victor.
So I think that's the last question.
I can see the comment of Prof. Rafi. Yes, we have to.
Yeah, we have another one.
Yeah.
From Marburg. How will the country be able to pull data for use in various AI applications?
How can we be able to pull data for use in various AI applications? Yeah, so Marvin, the thing that we should do here is first, we have to ask what applications first before, because there is this what they call the smart data versus the noisy. We, as much as possible, we want to increase the signal to noise ratio, meaning that maybe we're just collecting data that we're not going to use. It can be a cost because you have to keep it and then you have to protect it for security issues. So I would rephrase this question. How will the country be able to collect these use cases with the industry that we can solve using data, right? But maybe another one, because the freedom of information is actually collecting data from different government agencies to make it more open. And one of the issues or challenges that they're facing right now, I talked to USEC Chris Ablan. He actually said that many still do not use the data that they put there. So if nobody's using the data, then our government agencies will get disheartened. Now, it's a chicken and egg problem. So maybe slowly we start with low-hanging fruit with projects, and then because of these projects, we get to clean our data. We get to identify data gaps that could also help us in terms of improving the data collection process and keeping our data management. Thank you.
We have here a follow-up question from Victor.
Okay.
How do we make AI development more open? Because I would like to believe that access to data is a bigger problem than availability of talents.
So I think Victor's point is very correct, especially on the algorithmic innovation front. No, this is really for academia and DOST. This is a very good point. This is what Pros has been saying. No, how do we, I lost the question again. How do we answer that one? I guess it's really just because this is also the industry project. And I mean, I have no answer for everything. This is probably something that we can discuss as well in the subsequent meetings. But I just want to highlight the importance of that question, no? That data access is very important, especially in the algorithmic innovation front. On the enterprise front that are not digital natives, they aren't really they're looking more for talents rather than data. But if you're in the innovation, the algorithmic innovation space, then yes, we do need data, because sometimes that's really just the difference, right? For example, Google versus, I don't know, a computing science department in LaSalle or in UP Diliman, no? Data lang yung difference. So that's something, Victor, that we have to discuss as well. Thank you so much for that question. Really important one.
I think this is the last question. Can AI and data analytics courses be introduced in the junior high school or senior high school offering, or should it be stick with the college offering?
Okay, there are two. There are two schools of thought here. The first one says yes, that we have to expose them as early as high school. But there are those who say that no, we should just focus on the fundamentals first, because really most of us here in this room who are data scientists and artificial intelligence experts didn't really have AI and data analytics right in high school, but we did have really strong math and science core or fundamentals. Maybe programming, yes, and then strong statistics in high school, and then strong mathematics as well. That will set them up for a successful data profession when they reach college, probably. So yeah, because right now in the Philippines, one of our big problems kasi is still on the quality, no? And then if we're gonna add more, the next question there is where are we going to find the teachers who will make sure that our students are really learning proper AI and data analytics as early as high school? So we can be a bit more prudent and really focus on the fundamentals aspect. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we still accommodate one last question? Yeah.
Ayun, sorry, Dr. Cabredo, this is really good. Computational thinking in basic ed, right? Like algorithmic thinking, no, Rafi? I think that's good as well. Just to let them, get them to start thinking about algorithms. Yeah, because yun nga yung problem, Francis, is if we start data analytics and they don't even know basic statistics, they don't even know basic calculus, maybe we're just dumping a lot of topics and themes to our students, no?
Okay, thank you. So I think this will be the last question since it's almost time. From Victor again. How do we motivate the government, especially the LGUs, to move towards digitization to make the implementation of these algorithms more straightforward?
Okay, again, another perfect question. Good thing I have some experience here. It's because it's a long process, Victor. I'm sure you know this. This is now about digital transformation, no? And crafting a really wise data strategy. It's a long process, and to do this really is number one, to inspire them. Honest, it's very cheesy, but you have to inspire them, make them see why this is important, no? Because for them it's extra work, because in our government, the government employees have specific tasks that they have to do. This is actually something that I really heard from our clients in government, no? They say that, okay, so this is all pretty, but who's gonna do it? Because I have other tasks and deliverables as well. So, but if you give them a compelling case, like it answers the question, what's in it for us? Like how will this help me? Then we can get their buy-in. So we have to start small. But we have to be agile about it. This is what we did for one of the organizations, and I think they're quite successful. In fact, they're now discussing proposing to the DBM to create a data scientist or data engineer position, or what they call this in government, plantilla, no, in government. Because again, the salary is another question. But yeah, low hanging fruit that will emphasize the importance of doing all of these tasks, no, that's beyond their scope of work, is a step to go. Oh yeah, you're right, Victor. A strategy. Yes, exactly.
Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Legana, for sharing a very significant insights. So at this point, please allow me to present the certificate of appreciation to our resource person. Okay. Let me read the citations. The Computing Society of the Philippines, Special Interest Group on Information and Computing Education, in cooperation with Southern Leyte State University, presents the Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Erica Legara for sharing her valuable time and expertise as a presenter for the activity Fourth Computing Society of the Philippines Special Interest Group on Information and Computing Education e-conference, CSP-ICE Week 2021 on October 7, 8, and 9, 2021, given this 7th day of October 2021. Signed, Dr. Jamie D.L. Caro, CSP-SPICE Lead, University of the Philippines, Diliman, and Dr. Rachel Edita O. Rojas, CSP President, Computing Society of the Philippines. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next part of the program, which is the business meeting. Let us welcome the CSP-SPICE President, Dr. Jamie D.L. Caro.
Hello, yes. Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm not CSP Vice President. I was past president, but now I'm chair of the Special Interest Group on Information and Computing Education. Thank you, Dr. Legara, for the... Huh?
Yeah,
Yes.
CSP-SPICE President.
CSP is... our Vice President is Rafi Cabrado, I think. And our President, CSP President, is Rachel Rojas. So last May, we elected a new set of officers. The Secretary is Ethel Ong, and the Treasurer is J.S. Caraga. And we also have new CSP board members. Okay. So
Jim, may I interrupt? I think what Francis is saying, you are the SPICE lead, CSP SPICE lead.
okay, the chairman of the CSP SPICE. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Of this conference. Okay. And I'm very glad that we have Greg Gabison, who is very hardworking, who did much of the work, and also Francis Padao. Thank you so much. So we have the new. So this is our business meeting. In this business meeting, teka lang ha. Francis, nakapin pa rin kasi si Ma'am Erica. Okay. Okay. So in SPICE is the special interest group on information and computing education of the Computing Society of the Philippines. Now, CSP has different special interest groups. There is a special interest group on natural language processing, a special interest group on mathematical aspects of computer science. And then there's a special interest group on women in computing, which is being reorganized in this conference also on Saturday for those of you who are interested. And then we're also forming a new special interest group on artificial intelligence with Rafi Cabredo initiating it. But this one, the special interest group on information and computing education that focuses on education aspects. Although we do a lot of research also. This year, this is our fourth conference, fourth ICE, and so we held the first three ICE conferences. The first one one in Davao, one in Cebu. Last year it was virtual. Did we also do one in Baguio? Anyway, and then this year is our second virtual conference. So let's hope next year we can have a face-to-face conference, or at least a combination of face-to-face and virtual. Okay, we publish the ICE proceedings every year for the past 3 years. This year, we probably will publish the ICE proceedings as a special issue of the Philippine Information Technology Journal. That's a proposal, so we still have to get approval for that. And then, so as I mentioned, we meet every year. This is our this year. This will be a short business meeting actually. So the only agenda is to elect a new set of officers, board members. Last year we did not elect any. So every year 3 board members are supposed to end their term, and then we're supposed to elect 3 new board members. So last year during the pandemic, we did not elect. And this year also, so this year we're electing, and we should elect, I think, 6 board members. 3 to have a term of 3 years, and then the second 3 that will get the second 3 highest votes will get a term of 2 years each. So for the board members, the current board members, I'm trying to make a slide for that, but it's too late, so I didn't. So anyway, currently we have the following as board members: Jaime Caro, Francis Padao, Shena Rhea, Claribel of UIC, Francis Padao of SLSU, and then 2-year terms that expired this year: Stelma Palawag from University of Cordilleras, Cherry Santa Romana from CIT, Cebu Institute of Technology University, and Ken Bonifacio. Ken is from Davao. Okay. Tama ba? Tama ba, Randy? Okay. And then we have 1-year term. Ken is from Sultan Kudarat ba? Nandito si Ken eh. Sorry ah.
Nasa meeting room si Kent.
Okay.
Kasama siya dito.
MU po, sir.
Ano nga school mo, Ken? Sorry ha.
Sir?
Ken.
Kent, yung school mo daw, Kent. Anong school mo?
Okay po, sir. Sorry po. Central Mindanao University po, sir.
CMU.
Opo.
Oo, sa
Bukidnon po.
Bukidnon.
Opo.
Maramag.
Yes po,
Maramag. Okay. And then, okay, 1-year term that expired last year but nag-hold over sila. Maan Clarino from UPLB, Julian Acebuque Salido from Aklan State University, and Mark Van Buladaco from Davao del Norte State University. Okay. Okay, so we have six slots, 6 positions for board members. Our board advisors, Randy Gamboa, Greg Gabison, and Dave Marshall, I think they agreed to continue on as members of the board of advisors. Okay, so I'm opening the floor for nomination of board members.
Doc Jim, clarification lang. We are actually electing 6 new board members, Doc Jim, no? And the current board members can still be re-elected.
You can re-elect the current
we can still nominate current board members. At tama ba Doc Jim?
Tama.
Yeah, okay.
You can still nominate.
Thank you. So from my end, I am nominating Dr. Jimmy Caro.
Oh, wait. I'm 3-year term kasi ako eh. Si Francis pa daw ako tsaka si Sienna.
I thought you're ending your term now, hindi pa pala. Joke.
I'm ending as chair.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
I step down as chair, but as board member, I have 1 more year.
I stand corrected. How about Cherry in Santa Romana? Is she ending her term also?
The ones ending their term are the following. So we have Dr. Telma Palawag, Cherry Santa Romana, Ken Bonifacio, Maan Clarino, Julian Salido, and Mark Van Buladaco.
Okay. I'm nominating Cherry Santa Romana. If I can nominate also Telma also.
Okay.
Pwede bang ganun Sir Greg?
Yes.
So we'll ask.
Isa-isa lang muna. Sorry.
Ano ko muna yung mga I'm sharing this. Ito yung tatlo. Three-year term, 2-year term, saka 1-year term. So I think incumbent na. Ang mag-expire ang term So ito, Telma, Cherry, Ken, Maan, Julie, and Mark. So they're eligible for re-election. Staying on for 1 more year, Jaime Caro, Francis Padao, and Siena Rhea Clarido. Okay, so I'll add now you can now nominate. Sorry, may mga na-nominate na si, no? Let me just...
Isa lang na-nominate ko, Doc Jim.
Sige, sino na-nominate ko? Si Cherry.
Cherry.
Sir, I nominate Victor Romero II from UP Tacloban.
Okay.
Victor Romero. Nandito siya, si Victor.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? Eileen of UP Cebu.
Yes.
Yan naglagay sa chat, Eileen. I think her surname is
Eileen Vicente.
UP Cebu.
Let me see the list of possible nominees. Actually, can they check out the participant list, Doc Jimmy? There's this one query asking for a list of possible nominees. Actually, try to check out the participant list if you have access to it. But if not, just try to express a certain name, and we'll try to validate if she is. What do you call this? She is.
Practically anyone who is
Okay.
interested, who is willing, can be nominated. Kung hindi pa siya nagbayad ng membership fee, pagbayarin natin.
Okay.
Kasi in CSP, walang seniority kailangan para maging officer, no? You can be a new member and still be elected.
Sir Jimmy.
Sorry?
Sir Jimmy, si Cherry.
Cherry?
Yeah, I remember when we elected the 9 nominees in the minutes, so we have representation from the Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao.
Okay.
That's why, in fact, when we elected the top 3, it's not according to the votes. It's basically according to the votes per island. So the top 3 for Visayas, the top 3 for Luzon, and then the top 3 for Mindanao, something like that. So basically,
we have to elect 2 each.
Yeah, but we have to look at the composition, sir.
Okay, sige.
Pero pwede bang mag-request for me to be elevated to an advisor instead of
Di ba ikaw mag-chair ng vice ngayon?
Ganun, sir. Pero anyway, let's see.
Well, actually, it could be also a wise move, because that would mean we can have more people. We can have more working people on the board. If there will be more advisors, and then giving more space to positions at the board level.
Okay, pakita ko lang ulit yung yung mga mag-expire term, ha? Telma, Cherry, Ken, Maan, Julie, and so ito, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Tama, no? Okay. So, Telma, Cherry, Ken, Maan, Julie, and Mark. Okay. May nag-nominate pa bang iba? Rabi Laviles. Taga saan po si Dr. Rabi Laviles?
MSU-IIT, Dr. Jimmy.
MSU-IIC?
Yes.
Rabi. Si Emily pala yung nag-nominate eh. Hello. About sa Luzon? Well, I nominate Telma Domingo Palawag. We need at least 2 nominees per island group. Nandito ba si Ana? Si Ann Clarino, nag-attend ba? She was in a meeting earlier, sabi niya. Ano pa bang ibang nominees? From Luzon, one more, and from Mindanao, one more.
Bonifacio, Kent Levy Bonifacio is nominated, sir.
I can see sa attendees si Arlene Trillanes. Are you interested? I nominate Arlene Trillanes. Nominate pa kayo, kulang pa tayo. Okay na pala, no? Kompleto na. At least minimum of 2 per island group. But are there other nominees? Then we have to ask the nominees if they accept and say something. No? Are there other nominees? Okay, kung wala na muna, meron pa ba? Any motion to close the nominations? Or
I
are
move to
there
close. I move to close.
Sir, I would like to repeat yung request, sir, if it's possible.
Yes.
Cherry, I would suggest we'll discuss it internally.
Okay.
Ano yung iba yun? Ibang item yan?
Now that I'm backing out from the nomination, sir, but
You want to back out? Okay. Telma Palawag, are you there?
sir, it's because there's another special interest group, the Women in Computing.
You're more interested in the women in computing.
Which it will be newly formed ba?
Okay. So baka doon ka mag-active.
She will still be active.
But I will be with the ICE, sir. I'm always with the ICE.
Baka mag-chair ka ng ano?
No, sir, because I'm the chair of the conference right now in Women in Computing. But I think because it's a new It might need more help. I don't know.
Okay.
Medyo
kung-
complicated yun, sir, kasi it's all women eh. It's an all-women board eh. The Women in Computing.
Well, it's maganda rin doon.
It's more challenging. It's more challenging to compose the board.
So you're backing out, and
Yes, sir.
you will just make you a member of the board of board of advisors.
If that's okay, sir.
So
I'm not okay, Cherry. I nominated you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Master Randy.
Rin, I could be a member, active member na lang ako.
Sino?
Just a member, sir.
Sino?
Ako, sir.
Ha?
Ako, sir. Telma po. Active
Telma.
member na lang ako ng CSP. Member will do.
SIG lang naman to, hindi naman tumatrabaho. Konting ano lang to. We only have, so far we had only one activity every year. But we can have more, but not too much.
Ganun.
Cherry, pag hindi ikaw nag-share dito ng ano, pag nag-back out ka kasi, hindi daw pumayag.
We only need 2, sir. Eh. We only need 2 per region, per area. So we have 2 already per area.
But we have to have a senior person who will be chair of this. Yung stepping down. So ikaw sana yung papalit sa akin as chair.
I mean,
the only other senior na maiiwan si Telma, si Francis, tsaka si Kent.
I can share the conference, sir. I will help the group, sir.
So you will insist na ano, hindi ka mag-aan dito.
Kasi we already have 2, sir. Eh, so, right? Unless there are other nominees.
Okay.
Maybe we can let them say something if they are willing to serve.
Sige. Nandito ba si Ravi Labiles? Nandito na. Nandito naman lahat sila, no? Okay. Telma.
Sir.
Ikaw mo magsalita.
Sabi ko pa I will be an active member of the CSP-SIG, sir. If possible.
If possible lang daw. So is that possible?
Sir, correct.
You know, the beauty of the special interest group for information and computing education is that we have that opportunity to help out our brothers and sisters, especially in those higher education institutions where they really need help. And I think these people that are actually nominated as members of the board can be in a best position to help them out. And for Doc Telma, in your area, in your domain, you are one of those persons whom I think people look up to. Yeah. So that's why, I would sense that it's something that it's not possible to step down as an ordinary member. Just to say my 2 cents. Okay.
Wala na akong nasabi, Sir Greg. Okay. Okay, challenge accepted.
Okay. Very good. Tarlene Trillanes.
Yes, sir. Hi po. Yes, sir. Go. I accept the nomination.
Okay.
Right, thank you, Arlene. Who else?
Thank you, Arlene. So from Luzon, dalawa. From Visayas, Victor Romero, UPV Tacloban.
Hi, sir. Am I heard?
Yes.
Yes. Hello, good morning. I'm Victor Romero from UP Tacloban, and I gladly accept the nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. More power to you.
Okay, I'm glad you attended this. So Eileen Vicente from UP Cebu.
It's around a while ago. Anyway, the nomination came from Larmy, so that should be okay. Diba, Larmy? Larmy nominated Eileen. She was around kanina, Doc Jimmy. In fact, she was very early.
Okay. Okay.
Eileen.
Okay. From Mindanao, Rabi Laviles.
Good morning, sir. I think someone from Mindanao. I would gladly accept the nomination, and I hope since MSUIT before is active in CSP, I hope that I can influence, especially the Northern Mindanao, to be back to the mga schools in Northern Mindanao, to invite them again to join CSP, because majority of our schools here are active in PSITE. Maybe some of the computer science are encouraged to be active and join again with CSP. Thank you.
Go, Robbie, go.
Hi, Sir Andy.
Campaign manager mo ako, joke.
Just to rationalize, the intention of CSP is more academic, and it's deeply rooted with how we are to approach our academic delivery in the computing space. So that simply gives that more impact, especially that we are in the academia. So we are focused more on the fundamental. We're deeply rooted with that. And it's something that is not a funfair approach, but it's something more for the common good of everyone who's actually engaged in the delivery of computing and IT. So it's as simply said as that. Thank you, Robbie.
Okay. Thank you, Robbie. Kent Levy Bonifacio.
Good morning po sa lahat. I was not looking forward to be part next time. However, if will be given a chance, maybe I could be more active na po. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ken. So these are the nominees. Meron pa bang ihahabol?
Doc Jim.
Yes.
Yeah, they are not nominees anymore. 6 lang sila, 6 lang pipiliin natin. So automatically they become our SPICE board members. Tama ba?
Oo, but we have to decide. We still have to elect kung sino yung 2 years term at sino yung 1 year term.
Yes, maybe you can meet, I don't know, sir, among yourselves.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe the board could meet after our election.
Okay.
And then you decide among yourself who will be the SPICE lead or the chair of SPICE.
O sige. So we'll just set a meeting, a separate meeting for the board. Okay. Sige. Okay, so if there are no other items, so I'd like to thank the outgoing board members, Cherry Santalumana, Maan Clarino, ang kararating ng Maan, di ba? Julie Ann Asibuque Salido, Mark Juan Buladaco. Maraming salamat. Okay. I hope you can still be active in other activities of SPICE and CSP.
Sir Jamie.
Yes.
Since there are no other nominations, can we move a motion to close the nomination?
Okay, the nomination has been closed, and we will both check, and we just elect everyone by raising your hands, everyone, to formally elect all of this. Raise your hands. Okay, and then there's a motion that they will decide among themselves who will get 3-year terms or who 2-year terms and who will get 3 and 2 years pala to. Kasi ang 1-year term na matitira yung mga incumbent, Jaime Caro, Francis Padaw, and Sienna Rhea will have 1-year term. This will have 3-year term, and 3 will have 2-year term.
Yeah, maybe Doc Jim, one rep from one island.
One from each island will have a 3-year term. One from each island group will have a 2-year term.
Correct.
And then we also have the existing ones from each island din yon na 1-year term remaining. So yung remaining ngayon ay so ano na to ha, board members na to. I'll just add the ones with Maribel ba o ni Rhea?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes, sir.
Ano ito?
UIC.
UIC. Okay, so ito yung ating board members. Ang board of advisors natin, apat pa rin to ha. Si Greg, Randy, and Dave will still be there. Greg. Okay, so are there other items? Salamat sa inyong sa pagtaas ng kamay. Pwede na di ba? Other items. For the next year, we'll have ICE conference again. Hopefully, pwede na mag face-to-face. So, meron bang gustong mag-propose na maging host? Or we'll just decide within the board? Okay, kung meron gustong mag-propose na mag-host ng conference next year, let us know. And we will call the board meeting sometime next week na lang siguro, early next week, for the board meeting. So, salamat sa inyong lahat. We will adjourn the business meeting now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And back to Francis.
The conference will resume again at anong oras? 1 o'clock ba?
Yes, sir. 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. Please be back at 1 o'clock.
So Francis, can you share again who are we or what are we expecting this afternoon?
So for the afternoon session, we will going to have a series of talks on the presentation of course exemplars relating to artificial intelligence, data analytics from Center of Excellence in Computing and IT institutions. The activity in the afternoon will resume at 1 p.m.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome, sir. So we're going to have our lunch break. See you in the afternoon. This is your host, Francis Raypan. Thank you.
So the participants can just join back, but we will just keep this one open, Doc Jimmy, or are we going to end the meeting? We'll just keep it open lang.
Keep it open. Stop muna siguro yung
Recording lang.
recording and the YouTube streaming.
Okay.
Francis, ikaw na lang mag-end ng streaming tsaka ng recording.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, and see you later.